Inanna's descent. Keke, Meg, and Cassie. Content warning. A message for my viewers. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the depth of today's topic. We will be discussing public humiliation, emotional stripping, and abusive relationships using real life examples from Keke Palmer, Meg the Stallion, and Cassie Ventura. These things may be sensitive, especially for those who have experienced domestic abuse, public shame, or betrayal in their own lives. If at any point this discussion feels overwhelming, please prioritize your well being. You have the right to pause, step away, or return to this lesson when you feel ready. Know that you are not alone and your experiences matter. My goal is to present this lesson with compassion, wisdom, and empowerment so that we can transform pain into strength and reclaim the sovereignty that is rightfully ours. If you need support, please consider reaching out to trusted friends, professionals, or helplines that specialize in healing and recovery. Your voice, your truth, and your journey are sacred and they matter. Now, with love and care, let's begin. Public shame and emotional stripping. The seven gates of Inanna. What happens when everything you've built, your confidence, your reputation, your identity is stripped away? Not just privately, but in front of the world. How do you survive when humiliation feels like a ritual of destruction? From Inanna's ancient descent to the public humiliation of women today, we see the same theme. Powerful women being stripped down before the world, reduced to nothing, and forced to reclaim themselves from the ground up. Today, we are diving deep into Inanna'S seven gates, the symbolic stripping of power, and how women like Keke Palmer, Meg the Stallion, and Cassie Ventura have lived this myth in real time. Welcome to the Dark Mother Mysteries. Who am I? I am Shadow Moon, priestess, oracle, and head mistress at this sacred temple. Here we remember what the world tried to make us forget. This message is for every woman who has ever been told that her pain is the price for love, for every sister who stayed too long, gave too much, and called it loyalty, for every woman waking up from the spell of struggle love and realizing I was never broken. I was groomed. Today, we call on Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess of love, war, sex, and justice, to dismantle one of the most damaging lies women have inherited, that love requires suffering. Because, beloved, let me tell you, Inanna would never. Lesson one, groomed to suffer, how women are trained to call pain love. Whew, yeah, okay. Let's begin with the poison we've all tasted. Struggle love. The idea that if you just hold on a little longer, love him a little harder, be more understanding, he'll change, he'll see you, he'll finally love you the way you need to be loved. This narrative is not natural, it's grooming. It starts early through music, media, culture, and even the church teachings. We are told that women should endure love, not enjoy it, that being chosen is a prize, even if one choosing you has no intention of honoring you, that pain is proof that is real. Let me say this with clear Let me say this clearly, y'all. Love does not require your destruction. Struggle love is emotional conditioning, and it is especially sold to Black women. And yes, I did say sold. From the ride or die culture to romanticizing loyalty through humiliation to the glamorization of holding it down for a man who tears you down. Y'all, this is not love. This is a system. Let's talk about the music we were raised on. How many of us grew up and singing lyrics about begging a man to come back? about sticking beside him through cheating, lying, and betrayal, songs that made pain sound poetic. Y'all, that wasn't love, it was programming. And the movies, whew, from Love and Basketball to Baby Boy, Black women have been fed cinematic lines that tell us to suffer, to stay, to save him. But who saves us? And what's worse, women who wake up and walk away are often called cold, bitter, or damaged. But really, they're survivors who broke the curse. This is why Inanna is so important because she too descended into darkness, but she didn't stay. Lesson 2, the seven gates of Inanna, the metaphysics of being stripped bare. Let's dive deep into her myth. Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth, chose to enter into the underworld, but she wasn't welcomed as royalty. She passes through seven gates, and at each one, she is stripped, forced to remove her crown, her jewels, her royal robes. This very symbol, the very symbols of her status, authority, power, beauty, and identity. These weren't just ornaments, these were protection. By the time she reached the final gate, she stood there bare, vulnerable, stripped down to nothing. The stripping was not just physical, it was emotional, psychological, and symbolic. Let's break this down. Number one, her crown. Symbolically, the crown represents divine authority, mental sovereignty, spiritual clarity, and one's connection to higher consciousness or divinely ordered power. It can also represent your identity as well. It is associated with the crown chakra, wisdom, intuition, and spiritual clarity. Metaphysically, losing the crown symbolizes the relinquishment of control and ego. It is the first stage of surrendering the identity we wear in the outer world. It marks the beginning of her spiritual surrender. And Nana removing her crown is her surrendering the illusion that power alone can protect her in the depths of emotional and spiritual darkness. Two, her jewels. Jewels represent status, wealth, money, self worth, the value we believe we hold in society or relationships. These are the masks we wear to be seen as enough. They can also symbolize the roles we are adorned with, the quote unquote good daughter, quote unquote the pretty girl, or quote unquote the lovely partner, loyal partner. Metaphysically, removing the jewels is symbolic of shedding external validation and the desire to be chosen. It's about letting go of performance. It is stripping away of adornments that mask the inner self, like social labels, beauty standards, or performative identities. These jewels are the illusion of being chosen because we are seen as desirable. Without them, Inanna faces what remains when no one is looking. Number three, her robes. Symbolically, robes are coverings of protection, dignity, and identity. They represent roles, presentation, and the outer image we present to the world, how we wrap ourselves in culture, religion, family expectations, or relationship roles. Metaphysically speaking, the robe is the layer we hide behind. To remove it is to stand bare before the truth of who we are without pretense or social and society conditioning. It is the emotional nakedness, a willingness to be raw and real. Removing the robe is emotional nakedness. It reveals vulnerability, truth, and the rawness of identity beyond roles. Number four, her identity. Symbolically, Inanna's identity is not a single item. It is what is revealed when all of our symbols are taken away. It is her soul stripped of titles, roles, aesthetics, and illusions. It represents your sense of self, shaped by ego, upbringing, patriarchy, and programming. Metaphysically, to lose one's identity is to enter the void, the sacred unknown. This is loss of ego attachments. This is the dark night of the soul. It is the portal to truth, rebirth, becoming your most sacred, unmasked self. Inanna shows us the deeper you go, the more you must release and also reveal. And though terrifying, it is necessary because at the root of your being is not the role you play, but it's the essence you carry. Inanna's descent teaches us that when everything false is removed, what remains is unshakable, the self reborn through shadow. Y'all, this isn't just a ancient story. Women today are forced to endure the same stripping, especially in the public eye. Lesson 3, real life examples of public humiliation and emotional stripping. Let's look at how this stripping manifests today. Using 3 women, Keke Palmer, Meg the Stallion, and Cassie Ventura, who have been dragged through public humiliation, betrayal, and emotional abuse. Keke Palmer, stripped of safety and publicly shamed. Keke Palmer's journey reflects Inanna's stripping at the gates. It forced no, she was forced to surrender her sense of safety and dignity before reclaiming herself. Number one, public humiliation. How Kiki's boyfriend, Darius Jackson, with his, let me just not go there. He publicly shamed her after she wore a sheer black dress at Usher's concert, tweeting, "It's the outfit though. You a mom." Instead of celebrating her, he used motherhood to control her expression and attempt to strip her autonomy. Emotional and physical abuse. Months later, Keke filed a restraining order revealing physical and emotional abuse. Footage showed Darius trespassing into her home, physically attacking her, pinning her down, and stealing her phone, all caught on surveillance footage. Societal stripping. Despite her bravery in speaking out, she faced public scrutiny, with people questioning her decision to stay in a relationship and victim blaming her instead of holding him accountable. Instead of receiving universal support, some people questioned her choice and even defended Darius, mirroring the same public stripping that powerful women have faced throughout history. But they didn't really know what the true story was. She had already left him. Let's see, and her story reflects Inanna's stripping at the gates, where she was forced to surrender power, her dignity, and her sense of safety before reclaiming herself. Keke survived her descent, and she emerged stronger, reclaiming herself despite the shame. Now let's talk about Meg the Stallion, public humiliation and gaslighting. Megan's story is one of forced humiliation, betrayal, and survival. Just like Inanna in the Underworld, she experienced shooting and betrayal, allegedly. And then after Tory Lane shot Megan the Stallion in 2020, she faced massive public gaslighting with people doubting her story, mocking her pain, and defending her abuser despite overwhelming evidence. She experienced gaslighting and stripping of identity. Lanes and his supporters convinced the public that Meg was lying, exaggerating, and seeking attention, just as Erishkigal stripped Inanna of her identity in the underworld. Even after Tory Lanez was convicted, Meg had to endure relentless online attacks, proving how Black women's pain is often dismissed, ridiculed, or ignored. Final rise. Even after Lanes was convicted, Meg was still ridiculed, questioned, and pressured to move on instead of being acknowledged for the trauma she endured. Her experience mirrors Inanna's descent, where she was judged, stripped of her status, and left for dead, only to rise again stronger than before. Meg's descent was brutal, like Inanna. She refused to stay in the underworld, though. Last but not least, Cassie Ventura, stripped of autonomy and silence. Cassie's experience with Diddy mirrors the deepest gates of Inanna's descent, where power is stripped through control, abuse, and fear. Number one, total control. Cassie's lawsuit against Diddy exposed years of abuse, sex trafficking, allegedly, and control. She described how he beat her, drugged her, and forced her into degrading situations, all while controlling her career, finances, and public image. Diddy controlled Cassie's career, finances, and public image, ensuring she was dependent on him, just as Inanna was reduced to nothing in the underworld. Physical and emotional abuse. Allegedly, he beat her, drugged her, allegedly, and used her for his own purposes, attempted to erase her autonomy and voice. Even after she escaped, she feared speaking out because of his power and influence, a reflection of how women are silenced by their abusers. Reclaiming herself, despite her years of silence, Cassie escaped and spoke out, filing a lawsuit that forced Diddy to settle within 24 hours, proving that the power of exposing the truth. Cassie's story aligns with Inanna's stripping at the gates, where she was forced to surrender everything before reclaiming her autonomy. Cassie's story, like Inanna, reminds us that even after the deepest stripping, there is a way back. Lesson 4: the sacredness of being seen in vulnerability. Inanna stood before Ereshkigal, naked, vulnerable, stripped. But what happened next? She did not stay in the underworld. She rose, she reclaimed herself. There's divinity in being stripped here. There's power in being seen raw, without defense, without armor. Being stripped down does not mean you are broken, it means you are preparing to rise. Society teaches women to hide their wounds, cover their pain, and pretend everything is fine. But Inanna teaches us that being exposed is not the end. It can be an initiation into deeper power. When Keke spoke out about her abuse, when Meg stood firm despite the humiliation, when Cassie broke her silence, each of them embodied sacred vulnerability. Each of them turned shame into sovereignty. If you have ever faced humiliation, if you have ever felt stripped of your dignity, if you have ever been reduced to nothing in the eyes of others, just know that your rise is coming and your return will be unstoppable. Lesson 5: reclaiming love without pain, chaos, or self abandonment. So, where do we go from here? We reclaim. We reject love that asks us to bleed to prove our worth. We reject dynamics that normalize emotional chaos and abuse. We remember that real love doesn't hurt, it heals. And Nana doesn't become bitter, she becomes wise. And so do you. You can be soft without being stepped on. You can be sacred without sacrificing your soul. You can rise from the ashes and still believe in beauty. Let these affirmations guide your healing. My pain does not define me. My rebirth does. I release every love that cost me my voice. I will never again confuse pain for passion. To every woman healing from struggle love, may you rise like Inanna. May you walk through the gates. May you shed what is not you. And may you return crowned and adorned. Final thoughts. If this resonated with you, drop a comment down below. What was a moment in your life where pain stripped you, but you came back stronger? And if this message stirred something in you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with another woman who may need it. Let's dismantle shame and reclaim sovereignty. Your voice matters. Your story is sacred. And remember, Inanna, she would never. Until next time, I am Shadow Moon, priestess, oracle, and head mistress of the Dark Mother Mysteries School, signing off. Class is dismissed.